You gotta go for the kill, because that 30% can be your downfall,
Right.
It can be something that sets you back, according to the judges, or in the whole fight in general. So you just gotta go all out and just, as you say, it's different, and just hope that in your going all out, you are safe. You have to also hope that you don't cause major injuries that can affect you on your next coming fight.
Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Enter the Dragon, Rocky, well, all of them. We can even throw in the Creed franchise. And I'll do one more. How about Fight Club? What do all of these iconic movies have in common? And if you haven't guessed it by now, I'm sure, you can make the connection that all of them involve some form of martial arts, right? But better yet, the significant similarity for me in all of these and commonality is that they all involve fighting. And when I speak about fighting, it's beyond just the martial arts being on display, but it's fighting for a cause, for honor, for a purpose. And in the real world, we have leagues that exist that give fighters out there the chance to become heroes of their own stories. And how do they do that? Probably by achieving greatness, right? By becoming champion, by getting the world to hear their stories and what the reason is for their fight. And that is why places like the UFC exist, and even now, and better, I think, the PFL. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, or maybe I am, right? I'm African, so I'm biased. Heck yeah, PFL all the way. And I'm joined in studio today by Elias Schulze, General Manager of the PFL, and Nkosi King Ndebele, one of South Africa's finest and the PFL's finest fighters. I'm really looking forward to this. So let's get into it. Ladies and gents, buckle up and get ready to ignite your light so that we can keep it burning bright. You're plugged in with us here on EXC-i8. All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Elias, how's it going, brother? Nkosi, how you doing?
Doing well. Blessed, man. It's a great Friday.
Wonderful.
There we
Doing
go.
great,
Glad
man.
to hear
Doing
it. Glad
awesome.
to- guys are we doing this virtually because we're in all different parts of the world. Normally Nkosi would be here home in South Africa, but he's out on a training camp. Is that in Bali? Am I mistaken? Are you out in Bali?
Yeah, it's in Bali. Yeah, Bali Summer Fight Club. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Elias is joining us in from the US.
I'm originally from the US. I'm currently in London, so
Really?
rainy London.
Oh, blimey, mate. What are you doing in the UK?
And the weather's living up to the expectation. So it is rainy out. It is a bit cold. So no surprise there. But yeah, I'm in and out of the UK. Our lead investor Helios is based here, and so I get to spend a bit of time with them, which is great. They're the lead Africa investor, and they believe strongly in sport, including PFL Africa, of course. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, great. No wonder the timeline worked, or the time zone worked, because I think you guys are an hour behind us in the UK at the moment.
That is correct. An hour behind.
All right, perfect. So Elias, while I'm engaging with you, I want to start with you, right? Because you've got quite an extensive background and education. I believe is there a bachelor's or a degree in science or something along those lines? And here we are, you're trying to conquer Africa and mixed martial arts. Like, how did we get here? Why mixed martial arts? Why PFL?
No, it's an interesting question. To be clear, I do have a bachelor's in science and a master's in science, but it's in political science, which is the least exact of all the sciences. If you think of it that way, School of Foreign Service where I ran at Georgetown was by SFS, which we call Safe from Science, because it was the one requirement was that we didn't have to take science. So there you go. But listen, I like building interesting things, with good people. That's sort of what's animated my entire career. And this is certainly an interesting, well-worth thing. I grew up in a family where like being a bit mission-oriented mattered most, right? Kind of the impact you could have, the adventure you could have, the type of people you could impact, and obviously joining forces with good folks. And so that's sort of what drove me to have a career for the last close to 20 years, kind of focused on Africa, and keeps me here. And the PFL is the latest of that adventure, and perhaps the most meaningful, to be honest, given what we're doing to build up what I think can be perhaps the second or third greatest sport on the continent after football, which we will never dethrone. Mainly because we get to work with and work alongside great fighters and athletes like Nkosi and really inspire a generation across a 1.4 billion person continent. And that's an exceptional opportunity and a great honor.
Excellent. That's great. That's great. And also, kudos to you, because you are killing it with the pronunciation of Nkosi's name.
I did it once, and now I can't repeat. I can't, I just have to go with the last name, Ndebele, or else, I'll screw up the
there we go. Come on, crushing it. Can tell that you've been connected and working with Africa for a while. And on that note, is there ever a thought, or was there ever a thought of making a move to Africa, or are you comfortable, essentially being based home in the US and being in and out of the UK and Africa from time to time? Is that working well for you?
Well, actually, most of, so I moved, my first job was in private equity, focused on Pan Africa, but based in Washington, D.C., and it was during the financial crisis. So there wasn't many new deals going on. So, I was very blessed to have a job. But I was stuck between kind of 3 Starbucks 2 blocks from the White House. And I said, this is not what I signed up for. I wanted to do stuff on the continent in sub-Saharan Africa. And so I said, can you please send me somewhere? I spoke French. They said, you can go to our Ivory Coast office. So I went to Abidjan. And that was where I was supposed to just be there for like a month or two. I stayed a whole year. And then I didn't really leave. So, since then, that was around 2008, 2009. I spent the majority of that time sort of based on the continent. And lived in Nigeria, Ivory Coast, a bit South Africa, Ethiopia for a few years, a little bit in Senegal, and then other times sort of being based elsewhere and popping in and out. So for me, the balance is I really wanted real time on the continent, living, breathing, like the real stuff, right? Living in Lagos, 2010 to 2013, that's the real stuff, and I had a wonderful experience. I'm always happy to go back. Don't need to live there right now, but have a different family structure at this point. But I've enjoyed really spending what amounts to nearly a decade on the continent, living in wonderful places.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Elias. And then Nkosi, I wanted to find out from you, with the introduction, I spoke about those great movies, those awesome titles, and how the fighters or the heroes in these stories have something that they are fighting for. Do you have a cause or a purpose? What got you into mixed martial arts?
Thank you, man. I get that question a lot.
Yes.
And because of how I grew up and where I grew up, a lot of people think that maybe I had a lot of anger issues. I was something had to fuel me up to get into this fighting thing. But speaking the truth, I grew up in Joburg. And in my younger days, like my primary school ages, I was in Jamestown side, so it's a little bit safer over there, and it's beautiful schools, And then close.
You don't have to say anything more. You're from the East Rand. I already know where this is going.
So yeah. So moving from that, going to deep flute in my late primary stages. Deep flute was rough, man. That's where I started realizing that life is different in other places.
Sure.
Too much gangsterism, too much crime, and it was normal. It just had to be normal. So if you stay there, one way or the other, you need to be part of a certain group. And because of that, I chose Kyokushinkai Karate, just to be safe, just to find something I can, a team of people that can, stand for me in times of trouble. But surprising thing is when I got there, it disciplined me made me even better, and I just enjoyed it. I looked so good doing it. I became one of my coach's favorite students, and he was surprised that you just started now, but you look so good. And from then, I just started loving this martial arts thing. I never stopped. Started watching all the movies of Jackie Chan, all the movies of Jet Li. Who's this Ong Bak? What's his name? Oh man. I forget his name. He had the movies Ong Bak. This guy used to fight with the elephants, and I don't know if you're familiar with him. But yeah, that guy, whoever. So,
We'll
and
get
then
there.
from then I just never stopped. And yeah, man. And then I also thank God, because He's the source of everything. I prayed about this, and then He guided me to say, you know what? Stay where you are. You are the future, and the nations of Harungs will know you and call you by name. Hence, I was called the future.
Amazing.
In my growing days, and I'm also grateful that He's leading me. Now I've been even favored and, king of many nations. So let's go.
That's brilliant. I love that. Being so honest and forthcoming, right? And like you say, often people sort of just associate somebody who's entered into the space of fighting as somebody who had anger issues, like you pointed out, or needed to focus, some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a disorder or some kind of challenge. They needed to focus their energy on that, right? And because of the discipline and all of that, it would help with that. Naturally, that's what people think. And they're not wrong in some cases, but the fact that you fell in love with it purely, for the sport and because you enjoy it and you are good at it, and even going as far to say is that you look good doing it. And I've seen your fights in the videos. You do look incredible doing it. A natural warrior. And for what it's worth, right? There was a time when I was much younger where I also was in love with martial arts. You can tell by the movies that I listed. And my brother and I would reenact every fight scene that we would see, kicking each other's butts. And that would be like not just from movies that we watch, giving each other a superplex or a submission like the ankle lock or the crossface killer by Chris Benoit. So we went through the most, man. We went through the most. And later on, eventually, I did a karate and a little bit of kickboxing, but never pursued it, professionally. But yeah, I did at one point really love and engage with the sport.
Nice, man. Nice.
So Elias, I want to throw something back to you, right? So the PFL uses a season format, right? Instead of the traditional and typical matchmaking system. Why did the league choose to go with this approach, and what advantages does it bring?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Listen, we think it's more meritocratic. It's more fighter friendly. I mean, you have a vast array of talent that come through different mechanisms, and Nkosi is a great example. And obviously, they come forward. So, how do you then determine who should be shown front and center as the champion? Well, the most logical thing is to do a championship structure, correct? Right. So, single elimination. We think that's good for the fighters. It's good for the sport. It's very easy to follow because obviously the spectators all know how that works, right? How do you get to the top? And we've had a really good experience doing that. And it doesn't mean we can't have showcase fights, which we do. We, Nkosi, you were there when we had Julia Ruka, come out, fight. And so we're able to bring in other elements as well. We just announced, of course, the semifinals in Rwanda. And so, Nkosi's one of the two fights at the top of the card, excitingly. But there we're going to also have other showcase elements and great talent as well. At the end of the day, listen, PFL and MMA in general, particularly on the continent, is about the core elements I think Nkosi represents well, which is like discipline, resilience, grit, determination, and hope. And what I think is really interesting about those elements is that they represent, in my mind, at least what I've experienced working across the continent, right? Those are the Pan-African attributes that that are making Africa move forward every day. I mean, they're universal. I could say my Native America, perhaps we should copy a few more of those than we are right now. But listen, at the end of the day, that's what gets people moving. That's what creates the future. And that it incarnates everything about MMA, at least, in my experience as somebody kind of now participating in the sport as on the business side. So super grateful to see that happen.
Yeah, that's it makes a lot of sense, right? And I think also just my observations and hearing your explanation, it also indicates maybe a better chance or a clearer path of progression for each fighter. It seems like the opportunity is there for anybody to really rise up and grow gradually, to the point where they can, become a champ. So with that being said, Nkosi, what does this mean, or how do you feel about this seasonal format? How does that impact your preparation and your mindset going into a fight? Do you see it as a benefit?
I've always watched the PFL playoffs, and I've always thought it was very, very interesting. And for me to be part of it now, it's amazing and it's a great feeling. But one thing I'm sure I'm excited about is to just have the opportunity to compete as many times as I can, in a small space of time. For me, that is amazing. It's what I live for. So having the opportunity to fight, back to back like this, it's a blessing to me, and it feels good. But because it's a playoffs, it's a tournament. You have to fight very smart. You have to prepare very smart in your training. Make sure that you don't have any injuries. And then when you got it into the fight, you have to also hope that you don't cause major injuries that can affect you on your next coming fight. So those are the bit of challenges, but you can control that, because when you are inside the ring, you are trying, you will do by all means, to get a win. And unfortunately, in some cases, it's a rough sport, and bones are crashing against each other, knuckles against each other. So anything can happen. But besides that, it's a all in all, it's a beautiful feeling, and I think the structure of it's wonderful, man. And I like the fact that as much as it's back to back, we still have time. We still have time to train, to prepare, and get ready. And you already know who your opponent is, so it's not like you are just waiting in the dark. And the worst thing that can happen is maybe if something happened to the opponent, and then there's a switch. They have to change and put someone else. But all in all, it's a beautiful structure, and you climb the ladder beautifully until you get to the top, and you can't argue with results because everything is just there. It starts with 8 men, becomes 4, and then to the top. So yeah.
Right. But you touched on a couple of interesting factors with that, especially when you're fighting back to back, and because it's seasonal, so it's a long campaign, right? You got to pace yourself, you got to know sort of when to go, but you can't control, the outcome of each match. As much as you can prepare, there's always the element of risk that an injury could occur. So I imagine that as it could be something that's quite tough to navigate around. Especially in a fight where perhaps you feel you want to give your all, but to reserve yourself and preserve yourself for the next fight or the fight after that maybe you got more of your focus on. Do you make a decision there that, okay, in this fight I'm only going to go about 60% for 1 or 2 rounds and then turn it up at this round? Or like, what is the thought process in that? Or are you always just 100% every round?
No, you gotta go for the kill. There's no saying I'm giving 30% or 40. No, you gotta go for the kill, because that 30% can be your downfall.
Right.
It can be something that sets you back, according to the judges, or in the whole fight in general. So you just gotta go all out and just as you say, it's different, and just hope that in your going all out, you are safe. There's no injuries, there's not much damage that you are causing to your body or to yourself.
Right.
But in that, there are some things that are really, really stupid to do that can cause like really, really severe injuries. So those things, like you stay away from, like I don't know. For example, if I can say, I'm tired, and then my opponent is tired, is all on the last round, and we throwing hands, and I start, I don't know, uh, doing the Max Holloway thing, like come to the center, let's go, let's do this, one thing can happen, that can be dangerous and it cause,
Sure.
yeah. So you don't want to be doing, so you just want to be smart as possible,
Yeah,
but be
yeah, yeah.
vicious and dangerous. Yeah.
Right. But fighting smart in the ring and managing those risks, but still being at 100%, right? And then, of course, outside of the ring and training, it's about like the conditioning. Does that help as well in terms of preparing and, mitigating?
Yes, very true. The conditioning, because the body needs to be conditioned. If your body is not conditioning to it, then you'll know it will fail. It's not going to perform the way you want. You can't expect your body to perform more than what you've been given in training. That's going to damage your whole body. It's going to damage your muscles, and you might even cause severe injuries to your body. That can be a struggle in your whole career. So the conditioning is very, very important in the training, and it's also starting the training, that training smart, like how to do this move. If I'm in this position, how do I move? How do I explode? If I'm in this, how do I move to make sure I don't injure myself? So it's also, some things that you have to go through in training as well.
Yeah, and that's a lot physically, right? And with the physical comes the mental fatigue. Emotionally, you could suffer as well. How do you manage that? Are there any sort of rituals or philosophies that you live by? What do you practice when you are not training physically to help your mind and your emotions with all the time that you're putting into this?
I believe, mental strength is number one for me. In most cases, my body gives up, but that mindset keeps me going, and sometimes I even speak to my body, to listen to me, because I believe I'm in charge and this body must listen to me when I speak. But there are cases where my body is just out, and then my mentality and then my mindset keeps me going. And so for me, it's that mindset of knowing who I am. The meditations or the times of I wouldn't say rituals, but meditations, like reading good books. I'm a Christian, and I like to read the Bible a lot, and I believe in discovering myself and the power and the ability that I have. It is in, seeking God, and allowing him to lead me, and believing in the Holy Spirit, the skillful one who dwells in me, the one who moves my body, gives me all these skills and abilities to perform inside the ring. So that's my mentality. Even when I'm there and I'm in a time where I'm like, okay, I can't move now, I have that voice, or that or the saying in my mind of, just relying on the Holy Spirit, like, God, take charge. Holy Spirit, take charge. Lead me now, because my body is failing me. And that's by faith, I believe, it helps, and it has pushed me in many difficult situations.
Amen, brother. And I love how you allow your faith to complement or what you are practicing, because essentially, in every facet of life, you can apply those same beliefs and principles and, really stick to that system, right? So that is incredible. And thank you for sharing that with us. And then, Elias, I want to throw something back at you, right? From a business perspective, right? Do you see or consider the PFL to be a disruptor in the global MMA space? And if so, like, what would make it a disruptor? And would that be a fair statement to say that, the PFL is a disruptor of the norm in terms of MMA?
I think so. It's also an interesting question. I mean, we've kind of proven that to some degree since 2017, 2018, when PFL Global started, right, as a challenger league, and now is, properly number 2 globally. So I think just, the insane demand for the type of craftsmanship and athleticism that gentlemen like and ladies, but Nkosi shows is there. People want this. It connects to them, and the existing, efforts did not satisfy all that. And so I think coming in with a slightly different structure as a disruptor, obviously this sort of more single elimination, more meritocratic, try to be a little more fighter friendly, much more just clear and upfront, has been quite helpful and successful globally. And then particularly for Africa, I mean, it's no mistake that, we're number 3 of the international expansion leagues, right? So it started in Europe, okay, makes sense. MENA, Middle East, North Africa, okay, there were some good relationships there. But then Africa proper, with the vision of Don Davis, of course, but then Francis Ngannou, who's our chairman and sort of represents not just for Africa, but globally what resilience means, what fighting spirit means, right? And so I think, us coming, with great partners like Helios, big private equity investor, but focused on Africa, run by two of the most sort of brilliant investors across the continent, shows that we're here to mix it up. We're not here to now I'm inspired by Nkosi's speech about the mind over the matter and everything like that. It's like, we're not here to just sort of we'll just come in, throw some nice fights, come if you want. No. This is a disrupting moment in sports history of Africa, period. And delivering anything less of that, for me anyways, would be a disappointment. And I think will be a disappointment to the fighters that we represent and we work with. And then the spectators who, flick on the TV or watching on SuperSport, watching on Canal, or show up in these sold out events. For us, we're not taking prisoners here. We're not trying to be nice and show up and say, come if you want. No, this is a sport that matters to the world. It matters to the continent, and it matters to the future of sports in Africa. And we're here to build and grow, and we'll do it together, but we'll do it relentlessly. And we'll do it with great partners like Nkosi and all the other fighters. But, we're not just showing up passively. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Excellent, man. That's beautiful. And just on that note of, doing something that matters, and I'm trying to think of how to phrase this question correctly. Do you think it would matter most that this is something that could essentially, have sort of global dominance and own the space of MMA, having that number or building up to being the number 1 brand and league in MMA? Do you think it matters more for Africa, or that it should come from Africa? You get what I'm trying to say? Is there more importance attached to that?
I think, if you look at it from different angles, you look at demographically, how, effectively in 50 years, we'll all be African, some sort of, if you look at just where we're going. And that's a great future. I'm excited for that. And so you got to look to the, and then you just even look now, where are some of the greatest feats of athleticism in fighting coming from? It's coming from the continent in broad strokes. And so, if you think about what makes a good fight, you go to a great UFC fight, a great PFL global fight, whatever it is, it's the quality of the fighters and then the quality of the production. That's it, right? Yeah. And there is no reason why, and I think we've shown that in Joburg and Cape Town, we have the same quality of production, right? We do not skimp. We do not underinvest. We respect our viewers. That's the first thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Respect the viewers. Just because we're in quote unquote doesn't mean anything, right? It's the same quality. We spend the same amount of money. It's a pretty hefty effort. And then the second is the quality of the fights. And obviously, as we go along, those become remarkably. These are remarkable feats. You're about to go into the semifinal. These are guys who are excellent, top of the game, not just in Africa but globally. And they've shown themselves in other environments. And so I see no reason why this can't be, Afrobeats became an export sport. And by that, we don't mean, Debange is only producing in London. No, he is producing in Nigeria, but it's being listened to in London. And so why not, the great fights in Cape Town or a great fight in Lagos being watched globally by guys in Detroit, by people in Chennai, and so I think that is the future. And of course, at the global level, obviously the fighters will compete in different places around the world once they get through, become champions of their own Africa space. But again, I see the future of PFL Africa being something that continues and sustains, and the ecosystem is worthwhile within Africa, can be exported globally. And then, ultimately we start to reverse the flow. We're bleeding eyeballs, we're bleeding dollars to Europe right now. Right through, and that's fine. I get it. There's a lot of demand for EPL. There's a lot of demand for soccer, football, all these other stuff. But why? Why does it have to stay the case? We're not saying stop, paying for the EPL, right? We're saying take some of that and start to invest in the continent, so that folks here can actually be involved in that process and then ultimately become a global brand. So anyway, my 2 cents, if you will.
No, that's brilliant. I love absolutely everything that you said there. And two things that stood out for me. One on a more serious note, one slightly fun, but I think there could be something in there. When you mentioned Afrobeats being an export, right, that's done successfully globally, I don't know, for some reason I could just see that being infused with the PFL as a merch brand, like fighting gear called Afro Beats or something like.
Very clever. That was the first time. Makes sense.
Look, if that ever rolls, we want a small piece of that.
That's cool.
And then the other thing that I really loved is that you said that you did not, essentially slack on investing in the quality of the production. Often the case with African entertainment or productions that we want to put out and hope that it has that global appeal, we often come short. And I do think that undermining the amount of investment that is needed to have that global appeal plays a big part in that. So I really commend you guys for not, slipping up on that and making sure that globally you've got that appeal. The quality is there of a high standard, of a high quality. So when you are watching anything else, any other sporting event, or even, the UFC, and you're watching PFL, you're comparing apples to apples in terms of, the production and the quality thereof. So brilliantly done, guys. Well done.
Nice.
So sticking on you, Elias, for another one, media and storytelling. I think in ways we've touched on this a little bit, as this conversation has progressed, but if there is anything more that could be elaborated on this specifically, in terms of media and storytelling, and the importance of that, what a big role it plays in growing any sport and any brand. How is the PFL building a brand and creating narratives that can compete with maybe the UFC's long established legacy? How do you set yourselves apart in terms of the storytelling?
So again, I think a couple points. One is, first, never skimping on the investment in whatever it is, right? We have some of the best, right, and you've seen probably the city intro film in Cape Town and Joburg. So just the quality of the creatives is absolutely spectacular. So we're I'm on a call almost every day with somebody doing something with the creative team or the social team. So we got to make sure that let's say the material or how we deliver the material is of global standard, which we do. And then the second is, it's kind of like the stories tell themselves, right? These are, and this what also makes the Africa narrative very interesting, is that there's heroes left, right, and center on the continent, right? And for all different reasons, and everyone has their own particular narrative. But I do think we have a disproportionate amount of heroes as fighters coming out of Africa. And when I say as heroes, I mean people whose agenda. Sorry, that was my wife calling. People whose story and life efforts match the something that people want to aspire to, right? If you think about it, as we grow up, we have whatever heroes they are, sports heroes, political heroes, and that changes us. Those biographies or autobiographies as they're delivered change us. And so I think within Africa, we have dozens and dozens, and many of them are fighting with PFL of heroes who will come out and be household names, same way Francis is, right? And a year from now, Nkosi will be like the Francis, right? Another Francis. And Francis wants that. That's the whole point. That's why he's behind this. He's like, don't have to leave Africa to become a global hero. Be a global hero locally, inspire a generation. And so all I say is, one, we just make sure we respect the viewer. It's the same global quality of any other venture. And then two, we let the stories tell themselves. And I think we're really blessed in Africa that these are hero building stories where the heroes are themselves building. And it's all we have to do is come along with a camera and a mic and say, hey, what are you doing? And that itself is a legend in the making.
Amazing. And I love that you mentioned and touched on Francis, because I'm curious. Was it difficult? Like if we look at, the PFL and Francis coming on, right? The world knows him and is familiar with his face and his brand. Was it a no-brainer that he would typically or sort of being considered to be, the first like iconic brand ambassador? Was it natural, or did you kind of have to pursue him a little bit and convince him? And why him? I know you mentioned some of his great aspects and qualities, and I think he strikes to be somebody who is a champion of champions, for Africa, and being a champion for other fighters, right? Wanting to see them succeed and all of that. And I believe it's part of the reason why he agreed to, partner with the PFL and come on board, because he saw the vision and the future and he bought into it.
Yeah, I mean, Francis's involvement predates me in terms of, I was hired after the entity was set up. But the way I understand it is there's really actually, it wasn't just like, let's do this PFL Africa thing. Oh, let's call it Francis because he's a hero. No, it was a melding of the minds from the start. Right. It was Francis saying, I want to do something regarding Africa and MMA, and PFL saying, let's partner up on this because we also want to do the same. So it's actually a more, I think, exceptional story than probably you would think with someone like that. It's really a joining a vision, and then having, again, our investment partner Helios come alongside Topwe Luwani and say that's what we want to do. And so kind of those three parties coming together and then bringing this thing to life. So that makes it, he's far more, that's why he's not an ambassador, he's chairman. He sits there to help advance the brand from the start. And so grateful to have his encouragement and his involvement, and again, like the vision on display. I think he's proud of what we're doing, and we're again creating other heroes that I think he'll be proud of too. Yeah.
And Nkosi, what does that mean to you, when you see somebody like Francis, come on board, and then not just, as a fighter, but somebody who becomes a part of the business? And like Elias mentioned, is not just an ambassador, he's actually chairman. Like, does that make a difference to you? Does that say something about the PFL and their philosophy when it comes to their fighters and, just the brand in general?
Oh man, we all know Francis Ngannou's story. It was one of the most inspiring story, if not in the world at one time or at one point, especially in the sport of MMA.
Yeah.
And for someone like him who essentially, like, he grew up with nothing, probably never been considered to be someone who can become this much great, or someone who can have a vision to transform Africa in what he does as well. And to see him being that person, and for PFL to have someone like him, he has a heart for people. He has a heart for the sport. He likes the sport, and he wants to see the sport grow in Africa. And he knows where he come from. He knows the struggles of where he come from, and he knows that there is talent where he come from. And for PFL to have him as the chairman, and someone who actually understands the sport, that is really beautiful, and it's amazing, and it's motivating to me as well, because it shows that it's possible. It's a motivation to me. If he can do it, I can also do it. I need to put in the hard work as well. It might not happen the way it happened for him, but if I really put in the hard work, and having God by my side as well, it's possible. I can also do it as well. And I like the fact that he wants the sport to grow, especially in Africa, and he wants not Africans to go somewhere else to get the knowledge and come back to Africa, but he wants Africa to make its own African champions from Africa, from the home ground soil. So that is really, really beautiful, and I'm really, really blessed to be part of such an initiative. And you know what, one way or the other, I'll work hard, man. And I need to, I made history by becoming by headlining the first ever PFL Africa event, and it will forever go down in the book of history. but there's more to come. Like there's greatness that needs to go down in the book of history in PFL Africa, So, and I want to be part of that.
Lovely, lovely, and beautifully said, once again. And, with that, right, my question kind of plays on what you've just said. And I just want to maybe throw a different thought to it, right? Because for a long time, the US UFC has been seen as, the dream destination for fighters. And from your own experience or what you may know about the UFC, what do you feel like PFL offers that they don't? And why did you not hold on for the that call up from the UFC, if I may? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
So what happened was, I'll tell you an interesting story. There's a video of in my amateur career where I was being interviewed by one of the guys, and they asked me, where do you see yourself and what is your goal? Where do you want to go? You understand? I knew exactly what I wanted to be. I told them I see myself either PFL or Baletor. And so in all my journey of I've seen UFC. A lot of people talk about UFC, and even other guys who in South Africa, they thought, Nkosi, you are definitely going to the UFC. But this was their vision for me. But I had my own vision, and I had my own goals. And my goal was to see myself in Baletor or PFL. And fortunately, Baletor and PFL, it became one thing. And now I'm in the PFL. I can tell you right now, it is exactly where I want to be. It is exactly where I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at this point.
Yes.
Do I still have or see myself being in the UFC? If I'm to be honest with you, no. I don't know why, but hopefully it will happen. But if it happens, I don't know. But for now, I can tell you this is where I wanted to be. And me being in the PFL was a dream come true. And it's something that my family or people who are close to me, they know this for sure. They understand. They will tell you that Nkosi used to talk about this and speak about this. There was one time where UFC had, reached out for like a short notice in Saudi Arabia. And a lot of people were excited for me. They were happy for me, but I had to pray about this because in my heart I was just like, it doesn't feel like it's what I want, And fortunately, there was some visa delayment because it was EAT, and so they couldn't get the visas. I was like, good shot, So and then the wonderful thing is that immediately after that, PFL, reached out, and then we started talking with the PFL, and then it was a long talk with the PFL and Brave not wanting me to go as well. So after that, a way just opened with PFL, and I knew I was, it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. So right now I'm happy. I won't tell you, I won't lie to you, I'm happy. I believe there's a great future for me to build with PFL. And I just need to work right, climb the ladder, go to the top circle, and rule as the king I am.
Yes. Incredible. And on that note, do you feel that the PFL has supported you? In what ways have they supported you with, your goals and things that you want to accomplish? Is there a good support structure? And do you think it's different from other leagues?
There's a beautiful support structure, just being, in the first ever PFL Africa and being the, main event, man, the advertisement it's so beautiful. One thing I like about PFL, you see, when it comes to these events, the Cape Town and the Joburg, the advertisement, it was something else. For the first time ever, I had people who, even in Deep Sloot, where people don't see these things, and they saw the advertisements at the malls, at the the Super Sport, and for me that was beautiful. We had people taking videos, sending it to me. Oh, we just saw this, this is amazing, and it just made people, and I also feel like because of that, it opened a doorway for me to come back home in my home soil in South Africa, already with people knowing that Nkosi, is coming, he's gonna be here, and it made it easy for people to welcome me back home, because I hadn't fought in South Africa in like 5 years.
Yes.
So the spotlight gave me that opportunity, and I can see that, the ball is actually in my hand, and if I mess up with this opportunity, it will be all on me. But PFL is really putting it out there for me to really go out there and shine, and it's one opportunity I'll not let slip.
That's incredible, and I think a very inspiring message for other fighters. If they do get the chance to watch this or just hear more about your story and observe the progress of the PFL, is that it's a nice message, right? As a fighter, the ball is in your court. You hold the moves. The structure is there. The support is there. What are you going to do with this opportunity? I think it's a nice way to get them excited about it and let them know that really, whatever it is that you want to do, the heights that you want to reach, we are here to help you make that happen. You just got to put in the work.
True.
Right. So, Elias, it's been incredible talking to you guys, and I'm trying to now ask a question that's not going to lead to consuming any more of your time. So I've got to be smart about it, because I know you guys are on a tight schedule. But I wanted to know, are there any immediate goals for the PFL that you could share with us? And then also, the flip side of that, are there any long-term goals that people should be excited about, like something that you've got like a 5-year plan, or in 10 years, what can we expect? So one immediate and one futuristic.
No, so immediately, we have this season, and we have the semifinals coming up October 18th in Kigali, Rwanda, at the BK Arena. It's an enormous, beautiful arena. We're going to bring it packed with energy. Nkosi will be there. And so, it's about really delivering for the fans and for the athletes the next 2 fights, right? Internally, it's very clear. We said we do 2 things. The first and the second and third and the fourth thing are let's make sure that the show is good, that it looks good on screen, and let's make sure that the event and the venue itself and the energy is strong, right? Because that carries through. That helps the fighters. And obviously, the millions, we're reaching 15-20 million households across Africa, and then have a global footprint that's expanding. American viewers can watch PFL Africa for free on the PFL app, for example. So we're just excited to keep up the momentum, for the semifinal and then the final in Benin. And we'll announce the exact date, but it'll be the second half of December. In Cotonou, which is great because we've hit Southern Africa, we're hitting East Africa, Rwanda being a bit of the heartbeat there in terms of sports. The BAL has done great work in Rwanda. And so we're excited to get folks coming in from Uganda and Tanzania and Kenya. And then we'll be over in West Africa, Benin, which is just a stone's throw from Nigeria. And, they have a great kind of rich cultural fighting history. Of course, Woman King, that film is sort of based around some of those legends. So for us, it's just about, putting our head down and delivering for this season. Longer term, the next 5 years, it's to reach many key parts of the continent, right? We want to go to Angola. We want to go to Nigeria. We want to be in North Africa. We want to go to Morocco, right? We want to hit all the hot points, and then other more surprising destinations. So that's important. And then it's also to basically to have this, to have created the household heroes like the Nkosis, right? That's important. But also where it is just known that MMA is, in large part, or, along with other efforts, is now the kind of the number 2 sport across the continent, right? Among, not everywhere. Of course, South Africa has a rugby tradition, which is wonderful, and a cricket tradition, and all these other things. But in many of these sub-Saharan African countries, or even North Africa, you have football or soccer, I guess, and then it's very long. You drop to number 2, and you might have whatever their kind of number 2 is, and so we see a real gap there, and one that MMA can fill. And so we hope to close that in the next 5 years. And so where MMA, is that, and where PFL is synonymous with MMA, Not just us, we continue to support the local leagues and promotions that, bring up great talent like Nkosi. But that's where we see it. And that's what we're, again, it's just about the grind. That's why we get inspired by the athletes that we work with, because they're grinding hard. So we have to grind in our own way.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. And I can see that happening, right? Especially when you illustrated the gap, or that long drop, from what the number one sports is to number two. I can definitely see PFL owning, that space, and really, I think even giving a strong competition for football for that space. Really, I do see that happening. And then Elias, if you could summarize, your brand message, or something about the PFL that makes it unique from its competitors. If you could brand that in one line or one phrase, one word, how would you do it? Is that possible?
That would be, there's a couple components depending kind of if you look at it from the spectator's perspective or the athletes. But I do think there's something around this word respect, right? I think if it comes down to that, it's a respect for the athlete and the meritocracy that we produce through the single elimination. I think that's important. It's respect for the viewer and for the spectator and whoever's in attendance or watching, through the quality of the production or the creatives, right? And it's a respect for the ecosystem, right? It's not, we don't come in, we have very close and warm relationships with, for example, EFC in South Africa. We love those guys. They're great, right? And we have the same type of interaction with a lot of these local promotions and leagues. And so I think for us, entering this space, we do it with great deference, right, to the folks who have fought and built. And so I think for us, I don't know how different. I'm not going to say how different that is than the others leagues or whatever, and globally. But I think at least for PFL Africa, at the center of it, it's this respect that leads to the excellence that then brings the success which we're striving for.
Excellent. Beautiful. Well said. And then, Nkosi, just to throw a couple your way as we wrap this up. So just about 10 more minutes, guys, if you could bear with me. Is that good? All right. So Nkosi, with all your referencing to the Bible and your faith and all of that, I'm just curious, is there a character or a person from the Bible that you sometimes compare yourself to, or does that vary depending on where you are at in your journey?
So I'll tell you a beautiful something interesting. So my name is Nkosi. My full name is Nkosi Kona, Samson Ndebele. So that's my second name. My second name is Samson. So,
Say less.
If you're familiar with one of the strongest men in the Bible, his name is Samson, and this guy, when it comes to fighting, he was really he was a destroyer. He destroyed his opponent. Yeah, he really, really he didn't play around. It didn't matter. When it comes to war, he was dangerous, and it was known he was the strongest man. So sometimes I wonder how, and God is amazing, because I can't just have that name for nothing. I gotta take some of that grace, some of that power into it. So yeah, but all in all, this is my journey. He had his own journey. He had his own, long time back again. But now it's my story. I get to tell my story, and I get to tell it differently, and I can do it in a different way. But I'm always inspired by, because there are things beyond my thought process, things I cannot see. I can only see what I see now, but I can't see what's to come. I can't see what's going to happen on the 18th of October, but it is by faith that I see me coming out of that match victoriously. And by putting in the works that, the training, all this, hoping that it produces the good fruits, and that night. It's not only the fighters, the hardworking fighters. There's so many hardworking fighters out there, but they are just nowhere, and they can't make it. They're putting all their hard work in the gym, and they work so hard, work harder than everyone else. But when they go out there, they are not producing the good results. So it just shows that there's something that is beyond also hardworking and being looking like you're working hard inside the gym. So yeah, honestly, I would just say now, as much as I'm inspired by all those things that say Samson, but now it's my journey. I'm writing my own story, and I believe I'm 100% responsible for that. And yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And clearly, it was your birthright to be in this space, man. So much so that it was in your name. Like you had no other choice. This was what you were going to do.
Either way, it was gonna keep calling me.
Right,
so
right.
At one stage I had gotten at school after I graduated, I had gotten like a scholarship to do teaching, and I had to really sit down and pray about it, because I was like, wow, with the way these kids behave at school, I think one day I'm gonna head spin kick one of the kids. So you know what? Let me just stay away of this, and I had a huge fight with my family members, because they thought it was a stupid thing to say. But now they understand. They're like, maybe you know, you knew. So
yes.
Yeah.
Lastly, from you, Nkosi, what is your ultimate goal within the PFL? I know everybody wants to be a champion. You spoke about the final coming up. But is there something greater beyond that? About like legacy, and maybe even once you're done being a fighter, what is the ultimate accomplishment for you within the PFL?
Yes. I like building other people, man, and I like oh man, if you could, I know you're in South Africa as well, and you understand the situations and conditions over there. And I would want, to leave a huge legacy. Obviously, that's what I want. A huge legacy behind. I just want to be the greatest. When there comes a time where they talk about the greatest that have done it in the sport in Africa, out of Africa, I just want to be there. And I mustn't just be there. I must be at the top. So that's the legacy I would want to leave. But in the meantime, man, in my climbing, I want kids in Africa and people in Africa, especially, or everyone in general in Africa, they must know that there is a huge space in the sport of in the combat sport. There's a huge door, and there's a huge opportunity when it comes to that, and it just needs people to be open to it, and support it and follow it, and as much as they do with soccer, as much as they do with they must see that opportunity, because I'm telling you, if that happens with PFL right now in Africa, PFL is gonna blow like something. Yeah, it's gonna blow very, very big. And in Africa, there's a huge, Africa is big, and if that can happen, in such a way that PFL becomes the sport of combat on its own, we make our own legends that inspire I want to be that legend, actually, that inspire the youth to. For example, when a kid is running on the street, they kick a ball, they want to celebrate. We know most of the celebration that they do, Cristiano Ronaldo, slide on their knees. So they follow these people. But we want that in the sport of MMA. So we don't want just, so that's how big it must be to say when a person wants to celebrate, they are like, something that the king of many nations does. So I have to think of something, actually.
You gotta find an iconic celebration.
Yes, I need to find an iconic celebration. That's really the best way to put it. But yeah, so when it comes to that, man, change lives and inspire, even if it's just that one kid, those two kids, just inspire them to show them it's possible. It's not because of where you come from, how you grew up, but it's possible for you also to climb the ranks and become something great.
Incredible, Nkosi. Truly words of a king. And thank you for sharing all your wisdom and your stories with us. Elias, it's been incredible having your insights and just, sharing the path of progression that the PFL has laid out. We're excited to see where it goes. And if there are any closing thoughts on your end, Elias, you're welcome to share them. And, likewise, if you need to jump and get onto your next call or something, you're welcome to sign off. And I'm just going to wrap things up here in the meantime.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. And Nkosi, thanks again for sharing your story and keeping the faith, and a lot of respect for that and all that you're doing for the sport and for the folks there. So thank you again for the opportunity. For those who are available, come to Rwanda on the 18th. 0 visas required for any African passport holder, which is awesome. So don't worry about the visas. Come on in and or watch or tune in. So really excited to see the future. Nkosi will be headlining that. So it'll be great.
Definitely. Let's go.
Incredible. From Africa to the world, and from us here at EXC Studios, from Mzansi to the world. Guys, keep fighting your fight. Whatever it is that you are pushing through, whatever it is that you're fighting for, you are on the verge of your breakthrough and you will overcome. Do not forget that. Never give up. All right. So we hope that you have been as inspired as we have been, and that you'll keep coming back for more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment. Let us know what your favorite mixed martial arts or karate movie is, as we like to say here in South Africa and Africa. And share an inspiring story of your own. Are you the hero of your own story? On that note, keep coming back for more. Stay locked in here with us, where we can ignite your light so that you can keep it burning bright. This is us here on EXC-i8. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much, champion. Thank you.
Thank you, King. Take care.